It is midnight, December 20th, 2025. 70 miles west of Fort Myers, Florida. The Gulf of Mexico is a vast, indifferent void of black water. There are no lights here, no city glow, just the crushing weight of the ocean and the sky. But down there, something is moving. The Coast Guard pilots see it on their thermal cameras. A vessel, a 42-foot Freeman catamaran. In the world of offshore fishing, this isn't just a boat, it is a beast. A supercar on water. It is named the Unstopp-A-Bull, and right now it is living up to its name. The engines are running, the throttles are engaged, the boat is cutting through the 3-foot swells at 7 knots. It is plowing forward, relentlessly, into the darkness. The helicopter crew hails the vessel on the radio. Captain of the vessel Unstopp-A-Bull, this is the United States Coast Guard. Please respond. Silence. They try again, and again. Nothing. The rescue swimmer, a man trained to jump into hellish conditions, is lowered down. He has to time his drop perfectly. He has to land on a moving target, a boat that refuses to stop. He hits the deck. The fiberglass is wet, slick. He moves to the helm, his flashlight cutting through the gloom. The dashboard is lit up like a Christmas tree. GPS is on. Radar is spinning. The engines are humming a low, powerful growl. But the wheel is untouched. The swimmer looks aft. He sees fishing rods in the holders. He sees the catch of the day prize fish lying in the cooler or perhaps on the deck waiting to be filleted. Everything is normal. Everything is perfect. Except for one thing. There is not a single soul on board. 2 men left this morning. 2 powerful, experienced men. Now, there is only the machine driving itself toward the horizon. This is not a shipwreck. This is not a fire. This is a ghost ship in the age of GPS. How does a boat keep driving when the drivers have vanished into thin air? Welcome to the mystery of the Unstopp-A-Bull. To understand the horror of that empty boat, we have to rewind 24 hours. We have to look at the men who stood at that wheel. These were not amateurs. These were titans. First, there is Randall Spivey, Randy, 57 years old. Randy is a man who takes up space in a room, 6'1", 245 pounds. He is the founder of Spivey Law Firm. In Florida, if you are injured, if a corporation wrongs you, you call Randy. He is a member of the multi-million-dollar Advocates Forum. He spends his days fighting insurance giants and winning. He is tough, he is smart, and he has enemies. Then there is his nephew, Brandon Billmeyer, 33 years old. Brandon is the future. He stands 6'2", 250 pounds. A giant, just like his uncle. He plays pickleball. He is active. He has a master's in business and a law degree. He works for the Shiner Law Group. He used to defend insurance companies. Now, he sues them. He knows the game from both sides. Uncle and nephew. They are bound by blood, by profession, and by the sea. For them, the ocean isn't just water. It is the only place where the phone stops ringing. It is the only place where they aren't counselors. They are just fishermen. Friday, December 19th, 2025. 5 a.m. The world is still asleep. But at the Intracoastal Court in Fort Myers, the engines of the Unstopp-A-Bull roar to life. They check the weather. It is a good day. Winds at 10 miles per hour, seas at 3 feet. For a boat of this caliber, that is flat water. They have a plan. Head deep, 70, maybe 100 miles out. Chase the big fish, the wahoo, the tuna. They have done this 100 times, 1,000 times. Randy has been on boats his entire life. He knows the rules, he knows the risks. But experience can be a dangerous thing. When you are a novice, you are terrified. You follow every rule. You clip the safety lanyard to your wrist, the kill switch that stops the engine if you fall. But when you are a king of Florida, when you are sitting in a $1 million vessel that feels as stable as a sidewalk, sometimes you get comfortable. They throttle up. The coastline of Florida, disappears behind them. By noon, they are in the deep blue. No cell service, no witnesses, just 2 men, 4 engines, and the silence. They are catching fish. They are having the time of their lives. They do not know that a clock has started ticking, a countdown to a moment that will defy all logic. The sun begins to dip. They should be heading home. Back on land, the sun sets. 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Deborah Billmeyer, Brandon's wife, looks at her phone. Nothing. Randy isn't answering. Brandon isn't answering. They are late. And in the world of deep-sea fishing, late is a terrifying word. She makes the call to the Coast Guard at 7:30 p.m. But out there, 70 miles away, the Unstopp-A-Bull is already driving itself through the darkness. And the deck is empty. Let's step onto that boat. Let's walk the deck of the Unstopp-A-Bull one more time. Because the boat is talking to us. It is screaming clues. But the language it speaks is physics, not English. The engines are in gear. This is the most critical piece of the puzzle. When the Coast Guard board the vessel, the propellers are spinning. Now, do the math with me. A 42-foot catamaran with 4 massive outboards, even at idle speed, moves at roughly 5 to 7 knots. That is about 6 to 8 miles per hour. The average human, fully clothed, soaked in heavy salt water, panicking, they can swim maybe 2 knots, maybe. Do you see the nightmare? If you fall off this boat while it is in gear, the boat does not stop. It does not circle back. It runs away from you. In 60 seconds, that boat is 150 yards away. In 5 minutes, it is gone. It is a white speck on the horizon. But why did they fall? Look at the rods. They are racked. They are not in the water. This destroys the old man in the sea theory. They were not fighting a monster tuna. They were not dragged overboard by a giant fish. The work was done. They were likely cleaning up, or maybe just moving to the next spot. There is no damage, no scratches on the hull, no blast marks. They didn't hit a shipping container. They didn't hit a floating log. The boat is pristine. It is a Mary Celeste for the 21st century, a perfect floating capsule of technology carrying nothing but ghosts and dead fish. And then there is the detail that gives the families hope and simultaneously breaks their hearts. 2 life jackets are missing. Did they put them on, or did they blow away? If they are wearing them, they are floating. They are alive. They are waiting. But if they are floating, why can't we find them? Dawn breaks on Saturday. The alarm has been sounded. The U.S. Coast Guard launches a full-scale assault on the ocean. This is not just a patrol boat looking around. This is war against the elements. They bring in the heavy hitters, the C-130 Hercules from Clearwater, the MH-60 Jayhawk helicopters, the cutter Crocodile. They are joined by the Cajun Navy of Florida friends, fellow lawyers, clients. 20 private boats launch into the Gulf. Everyone loves Randy and Brandon. Everyone wants to be the hero who spots them. But the ocean is cruel. The search area expands to 6,700 square miles. That is the size of the entire state of Connecticut. Imagine trying to find 2 coconuts bobbing in the entire state of Connecticut. Now, imagine the ground is moving. The ground is 3-foot waves that hide everything in the troughs. The Coast Guard uses SEROPS, a supercomputer program that predicts drift. But the computer assumes the victims are passive objects. If Randy and Brandon are swimming, if they are trying to stay together, or if they separated, the model breaks. And while the planes search the sky, something else is happening on land, something darker. The FBI steps in. Normally, the Coast Guard handles lost boaters. The FBI does not get involved in accidents. They get involved in crimes. Remember who these men are. Randall Spivey sues powerful people for a living. He takes millions of dollars from corporations. Is it possible? Is it possible this wasn't an accident? Did someone board that boat? Did someone force them off? The investigators comb the boat for fingerprints, for DNA, for signs of a struggle. But the boat is clean. Too clean. No blood, no bullet holes, no signs of a fight. Just the engines humming their mechanical song. Sunday passes, Monday comes. The window of survival is closing. Randy is 57. He is big, but he has heart risks. Brandon is strong, but he is heavy. Hypothermia isn't the only killer. It's exhaustion, keeping your head above water for 72 hours. It requires superhuman will. The Coast Guard makes the hardest calculation of all: the probability of life versus the risk to the searchers. Monday evening, sunset. They turn the planes around. Randy and Brandon are out there, somewhere, alone. So, what happened? How do two experienced men vanish from a perfectly functioning boat? The most terrifying theory is also the most simple. It is called the Domino Effect. It starts with a single mistake, a split-second lapse in judgment. Picture this. The boat is trolling, moving slow, maybe 5 knots. Randy is at the back. Maybe he is checking a line. Maybe he is washing fish blood off his hands in the water. The boat hits a rogue wave, just a small one, a sudden lurch. Randy loses his footing. He goes over. Now, the clock starts. Brandon is at the wheel. He sees his uncle, his mentor, his family hit the water. Panic is a biological override switch. It shuts down the logical brain. Brandon's instinct screams, "Help him." He leaves the helm. He runs to the back of the boat to grab Randy or to throw a rope. But in that explosion of adrenaline, he forgets the one thing that matters. He doesn't shift to neutral. He leans over the side. He reaches out. The boat is still moving forward. The momentum is deceptively strong. Randy is heavy. Brandon is heavy. Physics takes over. Brandon slips. Or maybe he jumps in, thinking he can grab Randy and climb back up. Splash. Now, both men are in the water. They surface. They cough out salt water. They look up, expecting the boat to be there. But the Unstopp-A-Bull is doing exactly what it was told to do. It is driving. They watch it go. 10 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards. They scream. But the engines are loud, and the ocean absorbs the sound. Within 2 minutes, the boat is a mile away, and they are left in the silence. But there is another possibility, one that comes from within. Randy Spivey is 57, a big man, high-stress job. Deep-sea fishing is physical. You are fighting fish. You are balancing on a moving deck under the Florida sun. What if the enemy wasn't the ocean? What if it was a heart attack? If Randy collapses, Brandon rushes to help. He starts CPR. He is frantic. In the chaos of trying to revive his uncle, does he fall overboard? Does he try to splash water on Randy's face and slip? It is plausible, but it feels incomplete. Because if Brandon was left on the boat with a fallen uncle, he would have called the Coast Guard. He would have driven home. Unless they both ended up in the water. And then, there is the theory that keeps the internet awake at night. The foul play theory. Why is the FBI involved? Usually, the Coast Guard handles accidents. The FBI handles crimes. Randy and Brandon destroyed people in court. They cost insurance companies and negligent corporations millions of dollars. When you take that much money from powerful people, you paint a target on your back. Could someone have been waiting for them out there? A pirate scenario, a forced boarding. But here is the problem. The Unstopp-A-Bull was a crime scene without a crime. Everything was in place. The expensive rods were still there. The electronics were still there. If this was a hit, it was a ghost hit. No struggle, no blood, no theft. It forces us back to the most chilling reality. The FBI is likely there just to be sure, to rule out the impossible, because the boat tells us that no one else was there. Whatever happened, happened between those two men and the sea. And the sea does not give up its witnesses. Back on dry land, the ripples of this event turn into waves. In the legal world of Florida, Randall Spivey and Brandon Billmeyer are giants. When a giant falls, the ground shakes. Monday morning arrives. The courts open. But the counselors are not there. Dozens of cases, multi-million-dollar lawsuits, families waiting for justice, everything grinds to a halt. Spivey Law Firm and Shiner Law Group are left staring at a void. It is a rare thing to see the legal sharks of Florida pause. But they do. Rivals, competitors, attorneys who spent years fighting Randy in the courtroom, they are the ones sending boats. They are the ones donating fuel. Because they know. They know that Randy and Brandon were fighters, and the idea that they simply vanished, it terrifies everyone. Their legacy is etched in the settlements they won and the lives they changed. But right now, their biggest case is the one they cannot argue. They are the plaintiffs in a case against nature itself, and nature rarely settles. The police make a decision that changes the texture of this investigation. They do not just list Randy and Brandon as missing persons. They classify them as endangered adults. Words matter. In the language of law enforcement, endangered carries a heavy weight. It means this was not voluntary. It means they did not run away to start a new life in Mexico. They did not stage this. It means they are in immediate, life-threatening peril. This classification strips away the red tape. It allows the authorities to bypass the waiting periods. It unlocks resources instantly. It tells the world, this is not a drill. But it also serves as a grim acknowledgement of reality. The authorities know the statistics. They know about the survival window. They know that two men, no matter how strong, no matter how rich, are just biological organisms fighting a thermodynamic war against the ocean. By classifying them as endangered, the police are screaming into the void. They are acknowledging that every second that passes is a theft. The ocean is stealing time. And as the sun sets on the third day, the classification begins to feel less like a status update and more like an epitaph. We are left with 3 doors, and we have to choose which one to open. Door number 1, the accident, the domino effect. It is the most logical. A slip, a fall, a reflex to save a loved one. And then the cruel math of a moving boat versus a swimming man. It explains the running engines. It explains the missing life jackets. Maybe they were taken off to relax, or they simply weren't enough. But it leaves us with that haunting question. 2 men, 2 experts. Did panic really erase decades of experience in a single second? Door number 2, the medical emergency. Randy's heart gives out. Brandon tries to save him. The boat drives on, unpiloted, while a tragedy unfolds on the deck, leading to a clumsy, fatal tumble into the water. It fits the demographics. It fits the stress. But where are the bodies? If they died near the boat or floated, the search grid was massive. The gulf is big, but is it that big? Door number 3, the shadow. The enemies, the millions of dollars, the FBI. It is the theory we want to believe because it gives us a villain. It gives us someone to blame. But the Unstopp-A-Bull refuses to cooperate. It offers no blood, no struggle, just a clean, expensive vessel doing exactly what it was designed to do. The truth is likely a mix of physics and bad luck. The boat didn't care. The ocean didn't care. The Unstopp-A-Bull kept going. It didn't know it had become a tombstone. It didn't know it was leaving its masters behind to fade into the deep. The search is suspended, but the case is not closed. Somewhere out there, 70 miles from the safety of Fort Myers, the answers are drifting. Randy Spivey and Brandon Billmeyer built their lives on arguments, on facts, on evidence. Now their final case is a silent one. The families are still waiting. The law firms are still quiet. And the boat sits in evidence, a pristine, fiberglass riddle. It reminds us of the one rule we all try to forget. You can be rich, you can be powerful, you can be the king of the courtroom. But when you step off the land, when you enter the blue, you are just a guest. And sometimes the host decides you don't get to leave. So I turn the evidence over to you. Was it a simple slip? A medical tragedy? Or something darker that the waves have washed away? Look at the facts. Look at the boat. And tell me, what happened to the men who could not be stopped?